Panelist is Roland Burgmann. Roland is professor and chair of the Department of Earth and Planetary Science, and he is an expert on active tectonics. His work is wide-ranging and influential, but as a potential home buyer, I have been particularly influenced by his work using satellite imagery to characterize the slides in the Berkeley Hills, and for that I thank Roland. It's all yours.
Thank you, David. So I want to thank David and Ines for putting on this event, and thank you all for joining us here. Japan has really done more in terms of preparing for, doing research on, and monitoring earthquake activity than pretty much any other country in the world. And I'll start out by showing just one example of the kind of data that has been collected. These points on this map are 1,000, not the whole slide is on the screen. These are 1,000 GPS sites, GPS being the global positioning system, the same system that we use in our vehicles to navigate. These were set up to essentially track deformation related to earthquakes as well as prior to earthquakes. So we have a partial screen. I hope things will still work. But we'll just move on. This is not as important. So what I'll show you is essentially a movie leading up to the earthquake that shows how stations in Japan moved in the minutes spanning the event, which we'll try one more time. Here we go. So here we are. Nothing happens up to the earthquake. This is 2 minutes after the earthquake. There's a scale at the bottom of the slide. The motions on the left are the horizontal motions, up to 4 meters of motions in just 2 minutes. A colleague of mine emailed me who was right near the epicenter and talked about how his office moved and tried to take him with it by 4 meters in just a few tenths of seconds. So there's a huge amount of data being collected about the earthquake. And what is really unusual is how quickly we are learning about this earthquake. And I was saying how Japan has done so much research on earthquake hazards in the area, and still this earthquake was a surprise. There had not been an earthquake of this magnitude in Japan in modern history, and probably not for as long as 1,000 years. And so that is one of the reasons why, for example, the tsunami was much higher than people had been prepared for in Japan. Now, our theme here is, what are the implications for California? So I just wanted to address two questions, only one you can see here. One is, could we have as big an earthquake as this in California? And the other one is, because it has been asked a lot in the media and by people I talked to, so now that we've had this earthquake in Japan, and there was another one in New Zealand just shortly prior, and another really huge one in Chile, is there a connection? Are we seeing a cataclysm of earthquakes? And there was a Newsweek article saying, the next one is going to be here in California. And the answer to both of these questions is no. The earthquake in Japan was a subduction earthquake. It is due to one plate thrusting under another, in this case the Pacific plate under North America. And so there's a slip surface greater than 100 kilometers wide and greater than 300 kilometers long that ruptured during this event. And the offset was as much or more than 30 meters. That's like from here to the end of the room 3 times over. So it was a huge earthquake. California, on the other hand, is a strike-slip fault system where faults are vertical. They are only about 10 to 15 kilometers wide. And so the earthquake magnitude on those is therefore much more limited. The biggest earthquake we've had in Northern California, the big one, the magnitude 7.9 San Francisco earthquake, was a factor of 60 smaller than this. And as best as we know, you can't really fit a bigger earthquake than this, or close to this, in California. So the tectonics don't allow us to have quite as large an earthquake as we've had in Japan. However, north of here, Cape Mendocino up northward past Oregon, Washington, to Vancouver Island in Canada, can and has had magnitude 9 sized earthquakes. And in fact, we know quite precisely that there has been an event of essentially identical magnitude to the Japan earthquake in 1700. We even know the date of this earthquake because it produced a very destructive tsunami across the Pacific Ocean in Japan. And the probability of an earthquake like this recurring has been estimated on average to be about every 500 years. So it's been 300 and something years. And so this is something that will recur and could recur sooner than we wish. Finally, is there a possible way in which the earthquakes we've had in recent history, how they could maybe increase earthquake hazard here in California? And this article in Newsweek caused a lot of attention where Simon Winchester, who's not a scientist but a book writer, suggested just that. He said, 3 corners have gone, the 4th one is just to go. The answer is really there's no either mechanism nor evidence of this ever having happened before. And so there's no way that physically stresses from an earthquake thousands and thousands of kilometers away could reach an area and specifically target California just because it is on the 4th corner of the plate. Earthquakes of the size of the Japan earthquake are so big that their seismic waves, as they travel around the world, they can trigger very, very small earthquakes and have done so. The Japan earthquake did trigger minute little earthquakes here in California and other places. But there has so far not, after 100 years, ever been a case of those earthquakes triggering big earthquakes that could be directly related to these early events. So while the earthquake hazard in California is high, it is not high because of the occurrence of the earthquake in Japan. Nonetheless, earthquake hazard in California is high. The chances of a 6.7 or larger somewhere in California have been estimated to be essentially near certainty, 99% in the next 30 years. And we usually express probabilities of earthquake occurrence in these 30-year probabilities. And so here for the Bay Area, that number is on the order of 60%, and the Hayward Fault right here in our backyard has been estimated to have a probability of about 30% of occurring in the next 30 years. It has had its last large earthquake 144 years ago, and on average it recurs every 140 years or so. So earthquake hazard in California is real. It has not changed because of the Japan earthquake, and everybody in this room, should do what they can do to be prepared in terms of what you do at home, etc. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.